Hello everyone. On this presentation, we're going to be talking about the thorax, which is the upper part of the trunk. It will include the ribs, the breastbone, which is the sternum, and also the dorsal vertebrae. However, we have covered the vertebrae already, so we're going to be talking about the ribs and the sternum. There are two parts to the thorax, which can also be called the thoracic cage, which is the sternum and the ribs. Let's first talk about the sternum. The sternum is going to be made up of three different structures. We have the manubrium, the body, and the xiphoid process. And you can see where it is located right over here in the midline of the body, right in front or anterior to the heart. Here we have a sample of the sternum as well. This would be your manubrium. There's a little line over here. This part would be the body, and this is your xiphoid process. Now notice how the ribs are going to connect anteriorly to this cartilage right over here that's present in the sternum. On the next slide, we will talk about the ribs in more details. There are three different types of ribs. We have what we call the vertebral sternal, the vertebral chondral, and the vertebral ribs. Commonly, they're known as true ribs, false ribs, and floating ribs. But I really don't like those names because they can be a little bit misleading. But if you pay attention to the names that I want you to know, which are vertebral sternal, vertebral chondral, and vertebral, you're going to understand where they will begin to articulate and where they will end their articulation. So all of them will have vertebral on them. That means that all of the ribs will start their articulation posteriorly on the vertebrae. And we can see right over here, we have the first rib articulating posteriorly on the vertebrae that's running posterior right over here. And sternal means that it will attach to the sternum anteriorly. So they start posterior and they end anterior. As you notice, they will come around and they will articulate with the sternum. Now 1 through 7 are considered to be vertebral sternal. So this means that they will start posteriorly on the vertebrae for the vertebral part. They will swing around and they will articulate with the cartilage that will go directly to the sternum. So this would be your rib number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So all these, they have their own little cartilage that go directly to the sternum. Then we go to the next type of rib, which is the vertebral chondral. Now chondral means cartilage, and these are ribs 8 through 10. They will again originate on the vertebrae, and once they swing around anteriorly, they will attach to a cartilage that will then have a cartilage that will go to the sternum. So remember, this was 7, so this is 8, 9, and 10. Notice how they have their own cartilage that will attach to the cartilage of 7, and then it will go to the sternum. So this is why it's called vertebral chondral, because they don't have a cartilage that goes straight to the sternum. They have a cartilage that will then attach to the cartilage of number 7 and then go to the sternum. Lastly, we have what's called the vertebral ribs. And vertebral just tells me that it's originating on the vertebrae, but it's going nowhere, right? And that's exactly what's happening. If you notice over here, we can't really see 11, but we can definitely see 12 ending nowhere. So it originates on the vertebrae posteriorly, the vertebral part, and then it ends. So that's why it's called vertebral ribs, and we have 2 of them, the 11 and the 12. So that's how the ribs are classified, by where they start initially, which is posterior, and where they end, which is anteriorly.